I'm Denton Davidson, senior editor for Gold Derby, with Austin Butler, who plays Elvis Presley in Baz Luhrmann's epic film Elvis. Austin, I was told by one of the producers, Gail Berman, that you sent in an audition tape wearing a bathrobe, singing at a piano, and I need to know more behind that story. Why was that the choice, and why did you want to make your first impression in that way?
The thing for me was my agent had said, we can send Baz clips of you acting, but we don't have anything of you sing. So you maybe film yourself singing something and send it in to him. So I've been watching all these documentaries and trying to figure out what I would send. And I ended up trying to send a tape of me singing Love Me Tender. And when I did it, I watched it back and I just saw all the external things. I saw me trying to force the muscles in my face to look like Elvis. And, it felt very surface. And so I put it aside and I said, I can't send that. And I was really just trying to figure out if I even believed that I could approach this. What's the way in? How would I want to, if I was the guy who he gave the job, how would I even want to do it? And so a lot of it was me trying to figure out my own belief. But then, I've talked about my mom a lot in this, so I'd learned that Elvis's mother passed away when he was 23, which is the same age I was when my mom died. And so I just learned that in this documentary, and I ended up waking up from this dream one night where my mother was dying again in this dream, and so I just had all this pain inside, and I really thought, that Elvis would have woken up from this similar dreams, I'm sure, and suddenly in that moment, it was so human. It was like, it wasn't about anything external. It was about the grief of a young man. And so I thought, Elvis would put this into song. So what if I just sit down and sing a song right now with all this emotion? And I had just woken up, so that's hence the bathrobe. My hair was a mess. I had this bedhead, and I sat down at the piano and I started, and the first song that came to my mind was Unchained Melody, which I had no idea was going to be one of the last moments in the film. And so I just sang that song to my mom, and it was just that, just the truth of that emotion. And I just kind of let myself cry, and I let myself play the music, and I just filmed it once, and I kind of thought, I have no idea if this is for Baz at all, but it's the most truthful way that I think I can approach this in this moment, is to take all of my own soul and pain and everything into this. And thankfully that was something that Baz also resonated with. And so that's how I first, got connected to Baz.
Wow. And as you're doing that, are you singing as yourself, or are you trying to be how much different is your own singing voice than Elvis's? And have you had aspirations to be a singer when you were younger? I mean, was that something you wanted to pursue?
Well, I was so shy, so I never sang in front of anybody. I would sing in front of like very, very close friends, or I sang in front of my mom back in the day. But it was, music was always a part of my life. So I got my first guitar when I was about 12, and got a piano the next year, and I would just play music for 8 hours a day. I would lock myself in my room and just play. But that was more, it was more just therapeutic for me. So I didn't really do it in front of anybody else. But I think for whatever reason, right before I heard that Baz was making the film, I was kind of in a musical phase of, I guess, sort of, I think my voice has a similar timbre to Elvis's. So when I sing, it kind of has similar characteristics, but I wasn't at that time really trying to sing like him until I heard that Baz was making the film, and then I just, tried to get as specific as I possibly could. So I mean, when I sang Unchained Melody, I was trying to sound as close to Elvis as possible, but my own singing voice, I don't even really know what it is, because I don't let it out much.
Maybe in the future we can look for that.
Maybe, I mean, I loved performing on stage so much, and I had the time of my life. So yeah, I wouldn't completely cancel that out.
Was it easier for you to perform as someone else on stage? Is that easier for you to? And so what is the key to getting his voice and movements right without looking like a Vegas impersonator? I mean, because that's like a balancing act to make it look genuine, because he's such an iconic figure. There's so many versions we've seen of him. So how do you bring yourself into Elvis and make him like someone that we believe?
Well, that was the big question, and I tried so many things. Thankfully I had a year and a half before we started shooting, so I could try many different techniques, and I was surrounded by great people. I had an amazing movement coach named Polly Bennett, who I had found because she worked with Rami Malek on Bohemian Rhapsody, and so she was very, very, very involved and very helpful, and I can walk you through some of the things that we did together, but it's kind of how it all fits together. You have his speaking voice, his singing voice, his physicality on stage and off stage, and then also how that changes over the years, how he walks differently later on than he does in the early days, or how he speaks differently, and so it was kind of figuring out a way to break those down into bite-sized pieces, and then there are certain things that, I mean, the tightrope that I often talk about is the fact that on one side you have very meticulous things, very, very technical, specific things, like the architecture of his mouth, or which shapes the way that sounds come out, or a specific way that he moves, which, some of it is just getting your body to be able to move in a certain way. And then it's not making any of that choreography. It can never feel choreographed, because if it does, then it won't feel like it's happening right now for the first time. That's a little bit, you're a little bit liberated from the confines of a meticulous train spotting moment when you don't have footage. But if we're trying to recreate something, Baz used the word train spotting a lot. Like, this is a train spotting moment. We can watch Milton Berle Hound Dog and see exactly how Elvis is moving in that moment, exactly where his eyes go, how his hand is positioned, everything. So the tricky thing is to get those things as specific as possible, but making it feel inside like it's happening right now for the first time. It's spontaneously. So it was kind of this, I would have to go back and forth, and sometimes I would have to listen to the song and not think about any way that he moved, and just figure out how the music was moving me. And then you start feeling, okay, why does his hand move in that way on this note, or that sort of thing. And you start stringing these authentic moments together, so that by the time that I'm on set, and this is why having time was such an amazing gift to me, because by the time that I got on set, I'd done these things so many times and tried to get it into my marrow as much as I could, so then I wasn't having to think about it, Yeah. And I talk about things like the fact that Elvis never was choreographed himself. So where did he get that inspiration from? He got it from going to the gospel church. He got it from being down on Beale Street. And so I started putting myself in, the mindset of not just looking at Elvis, but looking at the people that influenced Elvis, and putting myself in situations like with Baz. We went down to Nashville and recorded these gospel singers, and they sang for 8 hours, and from their soul, and stomping their feet and singing these gospel songs. And you can't help but get chills and tears in your eyes. And that's sort of like the raw meaning of music, where your body moves because it has to. I always knew from that moment when I felt that in Nashville, that if I wasn't feeling that, then I was off. So it was this kind of, that became my Northern Star in a way, was that emotion of the music moving you in a spiritual way, you know.
I love that. You get to go toe to toe with Tom Hanks in this film, and who didn't grow up loving Tom Hanks? If you're 30, did you have a favorite Tom Hanks movie when you were growing up?
Jeez, I had so many favorite Tom Hanks movies. I mean, I loved Big. I loved Forrest Gump. Castaway, Toy Story. You know, and that was the amazing thing when I first met him, and I would be in one room, and I would hear Tom Hanks laughing in the other room, and it just dawns on you, that's Woody. That's, that's the icon of Tom Hanks in the other room. And that was really surreal. It's kind of amazing.
So what was it
But
like then acting with him?
well, that's what I was going to say, is that once you get into filming, uh, we were separated, mostly. I mean, usually we would share a makeup room together, but because the fact that, for one, we both had a lot that was going on, so he had a big prosthetics rig, and we both would arrive really early, so we'd get there at 3 or 4 in the morning and
Mhm.
get the makeup chair, and but we had separate rooms. So maybe we would see each other for a second in the dark at 4 in the morning, as we kind of wave bleary eyed at each other and make our way to our own makeup rooms. But then by the time that we got on set, we looked like Elvis and Colonel Parker. So I wasn't seeing Tom and he wasn't seeing Austin. You know, it allowed us to live in that world the whole time. And then there were certain weekends where he'd call me and say, hey, you want to come upstairs and watch Saturday Night Live and get some pizza? And, so we had days like that as well, where I got to be with Tom, and that was really just some of the times of my life as well. But for the most part, I just was seeing Colonel Parker.
What was your toughest day on set? Was there a day that seemed more challenging in particular than others?
I mean, there are days that are challenging for different reasons. I mean, digging into deep grief never feels good. So those days are you feel like you're walking into a burning building or something. You kind of you show up, and it's going to be painful. But the challenging days were the first performances, because I'd had so much time to prepare, and so many people had believed in me to get me the job in the first place, to support me during the entire preparation time. And now suddenly the moment of truth is here, where all that matters is what happens between action and cut. And suddenly the fear comes in of am I enough? All those things, that am I going to fail everybody? And those fears, when you wake up in the morning and you know that you're going to go into one of those days. I mean, what I felt was nearly crippling anxiety. But I was almost desensitized to it by that point, because I've been feeling it for so long. So then you just do the work, and you also realize that any one of those moments, like 68 Special was one of the first things that we filmed, and that was a make or break moment in Elvis's career. He felt like if that didn't go well, his career would be over. So it was the same feeling that I was feeling. So I didn't have to push it away. I could know that he was feeling fear as well. And what did he do with it? He channeled it into the music, into the rapport with the audience. And so that was nice to kind of know that any moment that I was feeling anything, it was usually parallel to what he was feeling.
And then you've gotten such a great response. You just won the Australian Academy Award for Best Actor, People's Choice Award, Breakthrough Performance at Palm Springs International Film Festival. Now there's all this Oscar buzz surrounding you and the film. What's that been like? Just living through this. What's the last year of your life been like, and how have things changed for you?
Well, I mean, I've been acting for a long time. Uh, since I was a kid, I've never had another job, and there's been, you know, yeah, there's been many different chapters in my career and in my life, and I'm very grateful for this one because I'm getting to work with people that I've admired for so long, um, and I've never given more of myself to any role, um, and so, but when you film it, we really didn't like. Baz and I would have these conversations where you go, "What if everybody hates it? What if you get booed at Cannes? What if, there's all these fears that come in of the fact that, I mean, I've said this so many times, but I really felt like if it didn't go well, I wouldn't work again, because of all the belief that had been put in me, and then and the people that doubted it, and so suddenly then you'd be proving them right, and all the people that believed in you would be, so there's all those fears. So now, no matter who it is, if it's an 8-year-old kid in a grocery store saying, "I loved Elvis," or an 80-year-old woman saying she met Elvis one day and how much the movie touched her, or our peers saying, that the film resonated with them in a certain way, it just feels really, I'm just really grateful. Yeah, I feel good.
And I want to talk about your career a little bit, because people are acting like this is just like the breakthrough performance, as if you've never done anything before. But you've even gotten a SAG Award nomination for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I mean, you've been a part of a lot of film and television. So can you talk about, do you think you would have been prepared for this level of attention if you were 20? Like, are you a little, relieved that it's happening now for you, or
Yeah,
how do you feel about that?
I very much am. I remember being 16 or 17 and comparing where I was to where DiCaprio's career was.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I was, at a certain point, I thought, oh, I think I've missed it. Because and this has been a great lesson, and just never really comparing yourself to anyone, because we all have our own path. And and I I feel like if I had a certain level of success at a young age, maybe I wouldn't have had to double down and work on craft and really try to figure out how to get better. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Well, it sounds like, the timing has been perfect for you. And this is such an outstanding film and a bold performance. Congratulations on this, and best of luck to you with all the upcoming awards. There could be a lot of red carpets for you coming up. So enjoy this ride. And to everyone watching this interview, head over to Gold Derby and make your Oscar predictions. Check out more interviews with other contenders like Austin, including quite a few we've done with other actors and craftspeople from Elvis. And Austin, thanks for chatting with Gold Derby today.
So much. It's nice talking to you. See you later.